Improvised Intelligence is sponsored by the amazing people over at Chop Chili. If you've been a long time listener to the podcast, you know that this is my favorite brand of chili here in New Mexico. Pretty much put it on every meal that I can. They've got red chili, green chili. My personal favorite is this blend of the red and the green. I think this stuff is phenomenal. They also have frozen bags of green chili that you can order directly from their website at chopchilico.com. You can also find them in stores around the state of New Mexico at Sprouts, Albertsons, Farmers Country Market, John Brooks, Keller's Farm Store, Lowe's Market. You can also find them in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Hobbs, Gallup, Tucumcari, and for all my friends in Texas, they are in El Paso. Again, chopchilico.com. Go get yourself some amazing chili. Now back to the podcast. Improvised Intelligence is sponsored by the Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Improvised Intelligence. I am your host, Noah Vargas. Got a very interesting show planned for you guys tonight. Gonna go over what's going on between the U.S., Iran, Israel. It's gonna be very interesting. I have a lot to get into, so we're not gonna have a second story tonight. We're just gonna have the initial one. Before we get to the show tonight, I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody in Albuquerque. Just had an amazing weekend of shows. Thursday night, Vernon Speakeasy, that went great. Friday night, Don't Tell, that was awesome. And then Saturday night over at Two Cranes, managed to pack that one out again. Looks like the mic's a little loud. Let's see here. Okay, that should be better. All right, how's that doing? Yeah, it's still a little loud. If we have audio issues, feel free to please let me know in the chat. But yeah, packed it out again with Vernon's Speakeasy. That went amazing. Thank you, everyone that went to those shows. I'll be perfectly honest with you here. It was a little hairy going up to that Two Crane show. Hey, give me 2 seconds. Let's see here. I often forget to promote my own podcast. It's a very bad habit of mine. I'm not great at this shit still. But yeah, I was a little worried about that old Two Crane show. Ticket sales weren't looking great. The VIP moved pretty decent, but everything else was a little hairy. But we did manage to get some people out there. Shout out to AJ De Leon, who puts on that show with me, put it on together. He did a great job of pulling up the rear there. Had some friends show up, so that was nice. Shout out to the homie Springer for coming out to his show. Good to see him at a show again. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, very good weekend of shows. Got a couple of ones coming up. I'm off this week. Got nothing going on this week. Albuquerque. I have nothing going on this week. And then next week on Thursday, I will be in San Diego, California, sunny San Diego, and that's going to be awesome. Going to be at the Mic Drop Comedy Club out there. Very excited to do that club. Have not done that one yet. I've only done their Plano location, and that was a ton of fun. Gonna be out there. Suba Agarwal, she's gonna be headlining the show. It's gonna be great to work with her again. Me and her did a show a while back here in Albuquerque at Dry Heat. I want to say that was in like 2024, so that'd be cool to see her again. Great comic, very funny. Ticket link is going to be in my bio on Instagram. I will re-throw that back up there. Because Instagram does not love it when you promote flyers and shit. But, what are you going to do? So that's on my link on Instagram now. And then, so that'll be Thursday the 12th. Friday the 13th, I will be in Lubbock, Texas with AJ and our good friend Josh Kenyatta. We'll be over at, I should probably remember the damn name of the fucking place. We're gonna be at Mano Negro. Don't know necessarily where that's at, but it's in Texas, or Lubbock, Texas. And then on March 14th, we'll be at Jake's Back Room in Lubbock as well. And then the 15th, we're going to be doing 2 shows at the Riot Comedy Club in San Antonio. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then in Austin, Texas, we'll be there probably to the 18th, trying to get some shows that Thursday that we're out there. But we will be out there probably till Wednesday. Going to try and get some shows booked there. Sign up for Kill Tony, all that fun stuff. Very fun run of shows. Come out and see us. It'll be a very fun time. We're quite good at comedy these days, if I do say so myself. So thank you for all the support. And I guess finally, I want to say thank you very much for all the support on Instagram. Instagram continues to grow. It's pretty bananas. I still don't really understand it. I feel like most of the shit that I post is BS, but I'm creeping up slowly but surely on 11.6. Don't know how that's happening, but we do our best. Anyway, let's get to the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about here. Let's make sure we're just getting some audio here. Yep. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's get into it, shall we? Well, it finally happened. And I don't say that with any bit of glee. And if there is any bit of light in my eyes right now, it's because about 10 minutes ago, I took a massive shit that was brewing. So maybe that's why I have a little bit of light in my eyes and about 5 pounds lighter. But as we all know by now, late Friday night, early Saturday morning, this past weekend, the United States and Israel decided to do a massive bombing campaign on Iran. So there's a lot of angles I want to look at this from. I think it's the best to do it in chronological order just to get to where we are right now. I do have some headlines here, or reporting rather, maybe not headlines, just some reporting here that I would like to get into. What's up, Evan? Love you, buddy. Get into some reporting here that I have saved that I think is pertinent. We'll get to that towards the end, but we'll just do the day-by-day stuff. So yeah, Israel got what they've been asking for in a couple of different ways, but obviously they got, we've talked about this on the podcast numerous times, but they got it. They got the 7th country. They've been at 6. They've got the 7th, meaning Iran. They have done massive bombing campaigns alongside the U.S. that started on Saturday. They're still going right now. I do want to touch on what I think was the most well, maybe not the most, but one of the most disturbing pieces of this. So the bombing campaign begins, and and we'll get into this in a little bit, but there's obvious comparisons between the Iraq War, the, GWAT in general, and now what we're getting into with Iran. And at least with the global war on terror, at least with the invasion of Iraq, they tried to give us a reason. Various members of Bush's cabinet went to Congress. They went on the news circuit. They pitched the war in one way or another. I'm sure everyone watching this show remembers it, but if for some reason you don't, perhaps if you were too young, you remember that it was, they have the weapons of mass destruction. That was the line. They're weapons of mass destruction. Saddam is going to, and they allege this with Gaddafi as well, but Saddam is using gas. He's going to gas his people. We need to get into Iraq, liberate the country. We will be greeted as liberators. We will train the local military and militias to be freedom fighters, and so on and so forth. And democracy and peace is going to sweep the region. That was the line from Benjamin Netanyahu himself. And in the backdrop of all of this, really, I think the earliest footage I've seen of this is in '94 with Benjamin Netanyahu going to our Congress and saying that Iran is anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, at some point days away from a nuclear weapon. That has been the pitch in the backdrop of all the lies of the global war on terror. But they're not doing it this time. Obviously, the pitch of Iran building nuclear weapons has been there, but the ad campaign, as it were, to why we need to fight this war, why it's in America's interest. Like, there's another one that I really liked from back then. You don't want the warning sign to be a mushroom cloud, right? Mainly with the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So, I digress. So, leading up to this war, I mean, we've learned this now, and I'm sure this was recorded out there somewhere, but obviously being suppressed. I mean, I certainly didn't read anything about it, and I try to read as much as I can. Haven't had a whole lot of time last couple of weeks, but I do try to read the news at least once or twice a day from independent sources trying to figure out what the fuck is going on in the world. But obviously, we've been so swept up in the Epstein stuff, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But now we know that, and I read about this yesterday, but this was happening obviously prior to the war, so I think it's important to bring up in the lead up to this, and we'll get to Trump's video, which I found very disturbing. Apparently, the Ayatollah and his cabinet, administration, regime, whatever you want to call it, apparently they decided to make some incredible concessions to Donald Trump in the United States, to Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. Because if you remember, during the 12-day war last summer, when we used our bunker busters, we allegedly completely destroyed their nuclear capacity, not just the nukes they had in production, quote unquote, but the ability to make nuclear weapons, so on and so forth. They were still trying to make them allegedly, but I guess in the weeks leading up to this, the Ayatollah had approached both governments and said, hey, listen, we are willing to go to the negotiation table, and we are willing to concede, essentially, to give up on any nuclear ambitions, any of them. They were willing to go further than the Iran nuclear agreement that was put in place under Obama. They were willing to not only lower their nuclear production below that which is necessary of nuclear weapons, but they're willing to go to, from what I was reading, they were willing to go to 0%. Meaning no medical nuclear proliferation, no civilian use, nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. Not only were they willing to do that, they were willing to bring in, and now forgive me, I am not remembering the designation for the inspectors, but basically they're these inspectors that would go into nuclear facilities to ensure that nuclear facilities are doing what the government says they're doing. And at this stage, the Iranian government would be saying, hey, we have no nuclear capabilities. We are not, because from what I understand, they would work on their nuclear capabilities, send out the plutonium rods to France, or send the plutonium to France, get it turned into rods that would not be able to be used for nuclear weapon purposes, and then send back to Iran. Send it out to France to do that. And so they were willing to let these inspectors come in to ensure that no nuclear proliferation was happening at all. That was what they were willing to do. They were also, from a couple of sources that I was reading, they were also willing to be open to more diplomatic discussions surrounding the Strait of Hormuz. Now, if you don't know what that is, the general understanding that I have of it is that somewhere between 19 to 23% of the world's oil is distributed in the Strait of Hormuz. It comes out of there, and it's under Iranian control. And they were willing to have more diplomatic conversations around the usage of that and all of that, the trade stuff that I'm just not very savvy with. I'll be perfectly honest with you. So they were willing to absolutely come to the table and basically denuclearize altogether, which, look, I'm an America First guy. That's all I really care about. If you didn't catch the vibe already, I am completely against the strikes and the war that we are getting ourselves into with Iran. Now, I'm not crying over the Ayatollah dying. I'm not sad that his people got killed. I'm not sad that they're, that they died. No tears are being shed. In the same way that I wouldn't expect any sympathy from them if Trump were to die, right? I don't care about them. I don't expect them to care about us. This is not in my periphery, because why would it be, right? Why would it be? But they're willing to completely denuclearize. And just like in the 12-day war, where we goaded them into negotiations and then we hit them, it appears that they were completely willing to negotiate and concede to all of not only our demands, but Israel's demands. Well, we cut off the head of the snake. Actually, we cut off like half the snake's body. So where does that leave the remnants of the Iranian government and the Iranian people? We'll get to that. It's a very interesting thing to talk about, and we'll get into the ramifications of that to include the immigration issue. But so that ends up happening. Strikes happen anyway at about like 2 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. And Donald Trump doesn't do a formal address to the nation as you would expect. He doesn't go to Congress. It doesn't even appear he's broadcasting from the White House, at least not the Oval Office. If I'd have to imagine, they draped up a curtain somewhere in and around a Situation Room. And he gives an 8-minute speech that he then posts on Twitter, and I'm sure Truth Social and Instagram. I'm sure it's on Instagram. But in that speech, now he says, quite frankly, a lot of bullshit. A lot of bullshit about how they've been our enemy for upwards of 50 years. And do you remember the Beirut barracks bombing? And they're the number one state supporter of terrorism and all that stuff, right? Which, at least in my opinion, is irrelevant. I think a lot of that gets wiped away because, after the Beirut barracks bombings, when the Iran-Contra scandal happened. So obviously, if Reagan is supposed to be, quite frankly, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as the far-right MAGA Republicans go, at this point, just by the way they act and the way the rhetoric is, they hold Reagan over Jesus Christ. So if Reagan is the Jesus Christ figure of the MAGA Republicans, and he was able to move on from the Beirut barracks bombing and then through Israel supply the Contras with weapons, you would think that Donald Trump really wouldn't be so provoked or inclined to start a war. However, one thing that he notes in that speech is the acknowledgement of American deaths, specifically, obviously, service members in our military. It's been memeified a lot, understandably so, and rightly so. He basically gave the Lord Farquaad speech, right? Some of you may die, but that is a sacrifice I am willing to make. Now, as some of you know, I was in the military at one point. I did 6 years in the National Guard. I don't talk about it a ton. It's just because, not that I'm, ashamed of it, but it's just not something that I really hang my hat on, as it were. But I will be perfectly honest, that didn't exactly sit well with me. I would have to assume, at least I was under the assumption until a couple of days ago, that the commander-in-chief, his top priority is the safety and security of the nation. And right under that, the safety and security of the men and women that serve directly under him, meaning the service members. Now, I am under no delusion here. I understand the function of a soldier. I was in the National Guard only, but I was in the infantry. That's what I signed up for. You sign up understanding that should you go overseas, you're the first to die. I'm not under any delusions of that. I am not under any I guess that's the way to put it. I'm not under any delusion of what the function of a soldier or Marine is, especially those in combat arms. That is why, now a lot of people don't like when people say this, but quite frankly, it is the truth. That is why there is an honor in serving in the military, is because you sign the dotted line, whether you're combat arms, whether you're finance, whether you are HR. You sign the dotted line knowing that you are in some way, shape, or form putting your life on the line. If there was no understanding that you were doing that, or if it was assured that you are not putting your life on the line, well, I don't think people would really care that much. I think that's not an exaggeratory statement. It's understood that when you sign that contract, whether you're staying in, you decide to stay for 4 years, for 6 years, you do 20 and more, you are putting your life on the line. That is the function of a soldier, an airman, a Marine, a sailor, a commander. Is that what they call the Space Force guys, right? The commanders. Again, to various degrees, depending on your job, but that's the function, so I understand that. But with that being said, to so frivolously and really with no grave concern, acknowledge that your actions will get service members killed. There is something dark about, there's something deeply un-American about that. Like, that's supposed to be one of the differentiators between the American government, the United States of America, and the American military, is that, yes, while you could potentially be signing up to die, the men and women that lead you have your best interest at heart. While the mission comes first, your life is a very close second. Right? It's a very close second. So that was deeply disturbing. And so the strikes begin. What I would have to imagine is in the first 12 to 14 hours or so, the Ayatollah is killed. Not only is the Ayatollah killed, but many members of his war party are taken out. And not only members of his war party, but just the broader government in general, and people that would normally be, from Trump's own words, right? From his own reporting that's coming out. Well, actually, I take that back. Not his own words, but his reporting that's coming out of the party were people that would end up taking over for the Ayatollah. Now, they're dead too. So that's an interesting point to make. Another very interesting point that I was reading about today was that Trump had some negotiations through liaisons in Italy. Now, while this was going on, they were preparing to re-enter negotiations there. And after the bombing, after the Ayatollah is killed, Trump and his envoy or whoever try to have that conversation with the Iranians at the negotiation table through the people in Italy, and the Iranians said no. Now, I'm not going to pretend to understand the Iranian culture, the Muslim culture, the religion, but what I do know is whoever is put into the position of Ayatollah, they are, they're a religious figure. Now, I don't know how high they hold this religious figure. I assume it's pretty massive. I remember hearing about, like, it's like a lower version of the Pope, right? Not at a huge scale, certainly globally, but it is a Pope-like figure. Now, when you kill that kind of religious figure, well, what the fuck do you think the ramifications are of that? I can't imagine they're great. So now they're dead, and we have continued bombing campaigns going on in Iran. 6 service members of the United States have died. There was an incident yesterday where friendly fire, I don't necessarily buy that. I've got to be perfectly honest with you, because the airspace in that region right now is the most controlled airspace in the world right now. Friendly fire caused 3 jets to go down. So there were 3 down pilot incidents. Thankfully, all 3 pilots are okay. They're shot down by Kuwaiti forces, which is strange because we've had a relationship with them for decades and so on and so forth. It's very strange to me. I don't know too much. I've tried to read more about that. Not a lot of information, but it's very interesting. And so yeah, 4 service members have died. Or sorry, 6 members have died. 4 service members have been announced. The other 2 they're waiting to notify the families before they make their identities public. And tens of thousands of more, at least the families, are gravely concerned, to put it that way. And it all begs the question, which is really why I want to talk about this. We'll get into more intimate details also, but why are we doing this, right? Why is the United States clearly at the behest of Israel? If you have any preconceived notions that we're doing this autonomously, you're out of your mind. Now, that is not I don't say that to strip Donald Trump of any agency. Because at the end of the day, these are his decisions. Now, whether or not he wants to make these decisions, we'll get into that conversation. But I don't believe he wanted to at first, but he still did, and he should be held accountable as such. The blood is on his hands. Make no question about it. The American service members that are now dead is because of Donald Trump. This was a war. This is a war of choice. This is a regime change war of choice and decision that did not need to be made by points we've already outlined. And now we have 6 service members dead, multiple are wounded, and I'm sure more are going to die in the coming weeks, which Donald Trump himself has acknowledged. He made a follow-up video saying that more service members are expected to die, but it is what it is, and that's what happens in war. And again, quite frankly, I am not disagreeing with that. Soldiers do die in war, but for the commander-in-chief to say it so flagrantly, there is something deeply un-American about that. And it bothers me. Because this was the guy who, at least at one point, deeply loved and revered the American military. But, you know, those times might be gone. But here we are. Anyway, so why are we doing this, right? Why are 6 service members dead? Well, as if it was not impossibly obvious at this point, it is for the safety, security, and prosperity of Israel. There's absolutely no question about it. These 6 service members have died for Israel. They died because of Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, and everyone else who loses their lives or injured or is injured through this conflict is because of them. Let's not make any concessions here. Let's not make any false assumptions. Every citizen of the United States of America, through the eyes of the state of Israel, the country of Israel, are nothing but dirty, low goyim, nation cattle. That is what we are. That is all they see us as, and that's all they will ever see us as. And you should view them as such. Anyone, let's make this perfectly clear. Anyone who is cheering on this war, anyone who is saying that we need to continue, and this is the only way we could have handled things, this absolutely had to happen, that this is in the best interest of America, is lying to you, They do not have your best interest at heart. If your son or daughter is in the military, they do not care about them. If you are in the military, they do not care about you. They are holding the nation of Israel above you, above me, and above our best intentions. They are not America first. They are Israel first. They are your enemy, and they should be treated as such. This includes Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, all of them, and many more, but all of them. They are putting the nation of Israel above all of us. They have completely and totally failed at their jobs, and repercussions should be as such, and I feel like we will see that in the midterms. Now, as I said earlier, this is the 7th nation, right? This is the last one on the checklist that Israel, and specifically Benjamin Netanyahu, has been foaming at the mouth for the better part of 30 years. Now, why is this so important? Well, let's look back, not too far, but let's look back to October 7th and the following conflict between Israel and Hamas. Now, why is Hamas, Iran, and the Arab nations as a majority, why do they have such a problem with the United States? Yes, it is our relationship with Israel, but more specifically, sure, it's because, and it's in that letter from, bin Laden. It's like, oh, we put our bases in their holy lands, we moved the whole thing with Jerusalem, all that stuff. But it is the direct and total funding of Israel, because again, this should not be overstated either. They are our welfare baby. The relationship we have with them is so unique and it's so perplexing, truly. They are our welfare baby. We fund their government. We fund their military. We fund their education system. We fund their healthcare. And they drag us into wars continuously. I digress. But specifically, the issue that countries like Iran have with the United States, with our relationship with Israel, is due to the treatment of the Palestinians. Make no mistake. And Hamas is funded by Iran, true, but it's also funded by Israel through Qatar. This is also true, right? It's the propping up, it's the height of the flame. We all know this by now, I think. However, another major terror organization in that area that has an issue with us are the Houthis, right? Funded by Israel. Funded by Iran, but I'm sure funded by Israel too. That's not necessarily a Freudian slip. But with Iran out of the picture, there is not a lot of pushback to how the Palestinians are treated. Now, make no mistake about it, of course, the end goal, the end state with Gaza, with the West Bank, is to completely and totally displace and ethnically cleanse the Palestinian people for the greater Israel project, so that Israel can come in, take the land, and make it their own. And what did Trump call it? It was the the Riviera of the Middle East or some shit like that. Sorry, it's hot in the studio right now. It's a little toasty in New Mexico right now, and my AC is not turned on because we have swamp coolers still. So there is not a lot of pushback to happen against how we treat the Palestinians. And from that, we are then able to go, or Israel is then able to go and ethnically cleanse the Palestinians out of the West Bank. And now we can assist them in doing that. So that's the big push here, right? And I was thinking about this Saturday as it was happening, and this bigger idea, and I almost felt not like crazy, but like, oh, this really is the plan. Why is nobody really talking about this? And then, of course, of all people, Nick Fuentes brings it up, so credit to him. And I think he's completely right. And I love the way he put it. So to quote Fuentes, Israel wants complete and total hegemony in the Middle East. They want complete and total control. And the more outlandish idea that I had that he confirmed that he was thinking the same thing, we are creating a superpower. Because let's not forget what this country is. Aside from all of the horrible things that I just brought up about, the Epstein files issue is still relevant. It is still prominent right now. It's still an issue. Do not let this war distract you from the Epstein files. The fact that our government is ran and controlled, and what we'll get into, blackmailed by rich pedophiles that may or may not eat fucking children. But Israel is a country that has a habit of blackmailing our government. And now we are propping them up to be a superpower. Well, what happens then? Truly, I'm not, and I don't hate Jewish people. I don't hate anybody, to be perfectly honest with you. I've said it many times, it's the truth. I don't hate Jewish people. I don't hate any kind of people for any type of reason. I just don't have that in me, thankfully. But what happens, and I'm asking this as a genuine question because I don't know the answer outside of like just we have a thing to fight, unfortunately. But what happens when years go by and Iran is either a state that is controlled partially by the U.S. or partially by Israel, or they're completely controlled and occupied by Israel? What happens when Israel has complete and total domination over the Middle East and then they decide to turn on us? With all the blackmail they have, a military that is propped up by us, an affluent nation that is propped up by us, what happens then? I don't think that's an insane thing to ponder. I really don't. That is a beast of our own creation. They have nuclear weapons. If we're so damn concerned about radical nations having nuclear weapons, why aren't we doing anything about Israel's? Reasons are obvious, right? So that is something to be incredibly concerned about. But what is the state of the conflict at the moment? Well, Iran gets bombed. Iran then retaliates, which I think outside of the obvious of why that's important, that's a very important point because of the fact that the reason why they were waving the mission accomplished flag of the 12-day war is because when Iran decided to attack or retaliate, quote unquote, retaliate then, at least they told us, right? It was more of a, we'll do it because we probably should kind of thing. They bombed areas that weren't high population. They didn't have any Americans. Most importantly, they didn't have any Americans. And it kind of went off without a hitch. And I think one point that might be very important to bring up too is the fact that, you know, how, at least in the immediate, how well the operation in Venezuela went. Went in, took Maduro, got out, no casualties. Well, no deaths, right? There were injuries, but no deaths. And I think the amount of hubris that then flowed through the Trump administration after that, and you could almost understand it to a point where it's like, oh, if we could fucking drop into Venezuela and take the guy and not have anybody killed, well, what else can we do? And you can almost understand why, but that does not excuse it, but you can understand why. And it led us to here. Now, Iran not only does not come to the negotiation table and refuses to negotiate, they then decide to retaliate. They are bombing embassies. They are bombing not just Israel, but they hit our naval base in Bahrain. Now, granted, nobody died. That's good. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I guess the place that they bombed was mostly empty. Might have been 100 mission-critical people, but nobody died there. All the bombings that killed Americans were in Kuwait. And there is something interesting that I want to bring up about Kuwait. Let me pull that up really quick. Give me 2 seconds, please. I think this is an important thing to bring up. Where is it? I have it saved. I keep all this stuff saved on my Instagram, so excuse me. All right, here we go. So this is 20 hours ago. According to CBS, citing 3 U.S. military officials with knowledge on the matter, the makeshift tactical operations center and Shuaiba port, I don't know how to pronounce that, in Kuwait, where 6 U.S. service members lost their lives in an Iranian drone strike, lacked adequate force protection measures, and more were requested but never came. Sources state that T-walls, shown below, were the only form of protection, which is basically just giant walls of cement protecting you this way, not protecting you overhead. Were the only form of protection around the operations center. According to one source, while Kuwaiti batteries were in the vicinity, no U.S. counter-manned aircraft systems or counter-rocket artillery or mortar had been dedicated to the vicinity, and it is unclear if Kuwaiti batteries engaged the oncoming threats. So that's not good. So they've attacked Kuwait, they've attacked Bahrain, they've attacked Jordan, they've attacked Qatar, and there's an interesting note from the leader of Britain. I forget his name, but I do have his post here. His speech here. I thought I saved it. I apologize. Let me find it really quick. Just give me 2 seconds. I know I have it on here somewhere. All right, here we go. So this is from the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, because, British won't play the whole thing, but British civilians have been under attack due to the bombings.
Yesterday, I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. Over the last 2 days, Iran has launched sustained attacks across the region at countries who did not attack them. They've hit airports and hotels where British citizens are staying. This is clearly a dangerous situation. We have at least 200,000 British citizens in the region, residents, families on holiday, and those in transit. I ask all our people in the region to please register your presence and follow Foreign Office travel advice. I know this is a deeply worrying time, and we will continue to do all we can to support you. Our armed forces, who are located across the region, are also being put at risk by Iran's actions. Yesterday, Iran hit a military base in Bahrain, narrowly missing British personnel. The death of the supreme leader will not stop Iran from launching these strikes. Their approach is becoming even more reckless and more dangerous to civilians. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement, one in which Iran agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon. But Iran is striking British interests nonetheless, and putting British people at huge risk, along with our allies across the region. That is the situation we face today. Our partners in the Gulf have asked us to do more to defend them, and it is my duty to protect British lives. We have British jets in the air as part of coordinated defensive operations, which have already successfully intercepted Iranian strikes. But the only way to stop the threat is to destroy the missiles at source, in their storage depots, or the launchers which are used to fire the missiles. The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive.
So, they are joining the fight, it would appear. And, quite frankly, you can't blame them. So, now more countries are getting involved. Iran also did attack the international airport in Dubai, and strikes continue to happen. They've obviously have attacked Israel, and with major attacks happening in Tel Aviv. The Iron Dome appears to not be working for some reason. There have also been multiple Mossad agents that were captured in, not in Iraq. There were Mossad agents that were captured. Let me take a look. See if I could find it. I can't find it. Fuck. But there were multiple Mossad agents that were captured in various countries that were looking to carry out attacks. And the region is further destabilized. Now, let's talk about the fact that there is no plan. Not only does the goalpost continue to change on why, right? Why is this happening? Oh, is it because of things that have happened in the past, like the Beirut barracks bombing? Is it because of nuclear weapons? Is it because they have ballistic missiles? Because let's make it perfectly clear. The Iranians do not have, or they did not have, clearly now, but they did not have nuclear weapons. They didn't even have intercontinental ballistic missiles. They have continental ballistic missiles. Now, who is that a problem for? That's an Israeli problem. That is not an American problem. Strictly speaking, that is an Israeli problem. It is not an American problem. That is an Israeli problem. So, now the obvious question is, well, what's the plan? Are we going to have boots on the ground? How long is this going to take? And we have a great answer from our Secretary of War, Mr. Pete Hegseth. Let's see. Let's take a listen, shall we?
No, but we're not going to go into the exercise of what we will or will not do. I think it's one of those fallacies for a long time that this department or presidents or others should tell the American people, and our enemies, by the way, here's exactly what we'll do. Here's exactly how long we'll go. Here's exactly how far we'll go. Here's what we're willing to do and not do. It's foolishness. And so President Trump ensures that our enemies understand we'll go as far as we need to go to advance American interests. But we're not dumb about it. You don't have to roll 200,000 people in there and stay for 20 years. We've proven that you can achieve objectives that advance American interests without being foolish about it. Now, will we be bold about it? Are we willing to be decisive about it? Do we put months and months of planning into what kind of effects we want to achieve? Absolutely. But going forward, why in the world would we tell you, the enemy, anybody, what we will or will not do in pursuit of an objective? We fight to win. We fight to achieve the objectives the President of the United States has laid out, and we will do so unapologetically. Thank you.
Well, listen, man. Nobody is asking for the battle plans. Nobody is asking for the op orders. Nobody is asking for movements or strategies or whatever the fuck. Nobody's asking about that. What the reporter and the American people as a whole, because, you know, this was a huge reason why a lot of us, including me, voted for Donald Trump, was we don't want to get our men and women involved in more forever wars. Wars in the Middle East, wars of choice, regime change wars, all of the above, and any other title or description you want to assign to these conflicts. We do not want to be involved with this. I think it's something like 80% of Americans don't want war in general. Nobody's asking for the fucking battle plan, but we're simply asking, are you planning on putting American lives directly in danger by deploying our troops to this region, and specifically Iran? And, you know, signaling from him, from General Kane, Donald Trump, it all appears to be that more than likely boots on the ground probably going to happen. Nobody wants it, but it's probably going to happen. Now, of course, you could get into the question of like, well, do elections even matter? And we don't have time for that tonight, but it's a valid thing to think about. It's a valid thing to think about. So boots on the ground is probably ended up happening. And they seem to be very lackadaisical about it. Now, I will be perfectly honest with you. If we're looking at Venezuela and we're looking at the 12-day war, I think they're at 1 for 2 right now. Venezuela, in the immediate, looks like it was going to be a success. We don't really know, but what does success really mean? They don't really outline all of that. But clearly, the 12-day war was not a success because we're still fighting this shit. And it could have been a success if they went to the negotiation tables and just taken the Iranian deal, but, you know, here we are. So we'll see. We'll see. I think that's all I really had to say about... Oh, the last thing. Sorry. Ramifications. Obviously, there's going to be a mass immigration issue with all of the displaced refugees. There's an issue with sleeper cells in America, Iranian sleeper cells. Sarah Adamson goes into great detail on that in the Sean Ryan show from about a year ago. Go look at that. It's a great issue. I think her episode actually came out in January of last year. And then we have the mass shooting that happened in Austin, Texas, yesterday or the day before. 4 people got killed, 4 or 5 people got killed. Many got injured at the bar on West 6th Street. Very happy to report that nobody that I know was injured. Very unfortunate, very sad about those that did get injured and killed. The man that carried out the attack, that's another question. A lot of reporting are saying that it was a radicalized Iranian or Muslim individual. It was wearing a I Stand With Allah shirt, had a Iranian shirt or hoodie, and Iranian shirt under that. Gotta be honest, that reeks of CIA to me. Sounds like a psyop, but who knows? But these are all things that we have to contend with. And, you know, this is the type of thing, talk about repercussions. The Republicans are going to lose the midterms, and good. Don't vote for them. They're propping up a ticket that's going to involve Marco Rubio and JD Vance. We cannot vote for these people. I'm not saying vote Democrat. Sit this one out, man. So I'm never voting again. Unless it's for Thomas Massey with Ro Khanna. There's nothing we can do about this. We can't vote our way out of this one. And I've always said that, you know, not voting is a form of voting. But, you know, fuck these people. JD Vance, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz. We voted for Donald Trump as a repudiation of Ted Cruz, and this is what we're getting. But, you know, I can't remember who said it, but it is a great quote. No matter who you vote for, you end up getting John McCain. And that's just an unfortunate outcome that we are all having to contend with. I think that's all I really wanted to say on the subject. It's very unfortunate. It's very sad. The legacy of Donald Trump is dead. He will probably be impeached next year after they lose the midterms. And fuck him. Good. Get him out. If nothing else, that it just destroys his ego. JD Vance will not be much better. The AI stuff is going to get ushered in through him. But at least Donald Trump's legacy ends in a complete and utter failure. So fuck him. That's all I have to say about that. Catch me on the road. A lot of road dates coming up. Like I said, next week on Thursday, I'll be in San Diego. Friday and Saturday, I'll be in Lubbock, Texas. Sunday night, I will be in San Antonio, Texas. And Monday through Wednesday, it looks like I will be in Austin. So thank you very much for supporting the show. Please like, subscribe, tell me what you think. And follow me on Instagram. Instagram is growing. Noah Vargas 2. Follow the podcast, Improvise Intelligence Pod. And yeah, good episode coming out for you guys tomorrow, pre-recorded.